Welcome back to Real Talk and Healthy Food. It's your girl. So just come on in the room and hit that like because you know you fucks with me. We got some real stuff to talk about today. And we're also going to make us some uh, vegan Alfredo pasta, okay? With vegan sausage, okay? So let's get into the shits. California, you are fucking up. Y'all got to get it together. West Coast for life, but I don't know if I want to claim it right now. But yo, let's roll these clips and then let's get into the shits and get into the food, okay? First, take a look at this. You're going to have to pause to read it. And it states, California Assembly passes SB 145 to lower penalties for 24-year-old adults who have sex with minors as young as 14. Let's get into it.
49 SB 145, the clerk will read.
Senate Bill 145 by Senator Wiener, inoculating sex offenders.
Lawyer, you are recognized. Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise to present Senate Bill 145, which will end California's highly discriminatory treatment of specific sex acts by our state sex offender registry law by giving courts discretion over all cases of voluntary intercourse between teenagers and young adults. Under current law, if a young person has voluntary sexual intercourse with a minor, aged 14 through 17, and is no more than 10 years older than the minor, the offense is not automatically registerable. However, the court has discretion based on the facts of the case to decide whether or not to place the defendant on the sex offender registry. On the other hand, if any other sex act is performed, then it is mandatory that the court place the defendant on the sex offender registry, regardless of the facts of the case. This disparate treatment of these sex acts is a vestige from the anti-LGBT laws in the 1940s that criminalized gay sex. Tragically, in 2019, our laws still mandate that a young person in a consensual relationship who is convicted of performing these specific sex acts must be placed on the sex offender registry, and our courts are barred from using discretion, the word we like so much, to keep them off, even though a similarly situated young person convicted of statutory rape wouldn't have the same restriction. This distinction in the law is irrational and discriminatory towards LGBT youth as it treats these acts as more egregious of a crime than statutory rape. SB 145 ends blatant discrimination against young people engaged in voluntary sexual activity by giving courts the discretion to decide at sentencing if registering the defendant as a sex offender is appropriate, regardless of the sex act they performed. To be clear, nothing in this bill decriminalizes any of these offenses or prevents anyone from being placed on the registry if a prosecutor recommends it or the court orders it. SB 45 is a law enforcement sponsored and supported bill. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
So let's look at the opposing votes counter.
Madam Speaker, I unfortunately am rising in opposition to this bill, and I wouldn't have spoken except that people have misconstrued my opposition, so I want to be very clear. The equity argument that Equality California and others have promoted for this bill, I completely agree with. In fact, I agree with it so much that the amendments that they gave me to take in appropriations, which would have still created a two-tier system, I refuse to take because it is about equitable solutions. Any sex is sex. I don't care who it's between or what sex act it is. That being said, I cannot, in my mind as a mother, understand how sex between a 24-year-old and a 14-year-old could ever be consensual, how it could ever not be a registerable offense. I don't care what kind of sex it is. I don't care if it's traditional. I don't even, I'm not going to go there. But the bottom line is, when a 24-year-old has sex with a 14-year-old, it is always in an inequitable situation. Most of the time, it's a teacher and student. It might be a Bible study instructor or coach and a student. I've had 14-year-olds. I've asked everybody, as this has sat in my committee for 2 years, amend both sides of the bill. Amend the current situation where one sex act between a 24 and a 14-year-old might be considered consensual by a judge and amend this so we can have equity, because it should be equitable. But we should never give up on this idea that children should be in any way subject to a predator. And that's what it is. I cannot, and I've never heard, and I've challenged everybody, give me a situation where a 24-year-old had sex with a 14-year-old, any kind of sex, and it wasn't predatory. Any example, and I've yet to see it. I have been the mother of a 14-year-old over and over and over again, and I'm sorry. Until you can show me that, I can't vote for this bill. As much as I want to create an equitable situation, I think this needs to go back to the drawing board. I think we need to take up both portions of the code and make a determination. I understand it leaves it up to a judge. It leaves it up to a judge. I still have never seen a single instance by which a 24-year-old should be having sex with a 14-year-old. With that, I respectfully ask for no vote.
Yo, there's more people who spoke against it that spoke for it. Long story short, it has been passed. It was actually passed on September 2nd, which encourages, in my mind, in layman's terms, pedophilia. Period. The end. There's no need to sugarcoat it and put all these extra words in between it. They're basically saying it's okay for a grown ass man to have sex with a child. And no matter how you want to flip it or remix it or say it, a 14-year-old kid is not going to have the full understanding of how that will affect their life in the future. Before we get into that and my issue with the shits, let's get into this recipe, okay? Now, of course, for the sauce, right? For the Alfredo sauce, I'll put the link above at the top. I don't know what side it'll be on. It's probably this side. But so as usual, we're going to be using cashews, unsweetened almond milk. I'm using um, unsalted almond butter and a whole bunch of garlic and seasoning, and of course a little piece of onion. Okay, if you can see all of that, it's been marinating in the back. I like to use this pasta, preferably I like the green one, but I only had this one left, so it's the Garden Delight. So, but it's still made of mostly vegetables. Then I'm gonna add to my sauce a tomato, one and a half tomatoes, a full onion, a whole bunch of garlic, and I got the green peppers on the stove right now. And while we're talking, I'm gonna have my vegan sausage roasting, and I got the water boiling. I'm gonna chop this up, wait for that to boil, and while all that's going on, we're gonna get this cracking. And all that noise in the background is Taco doing what he do. He turns into T'Challa when the sun sets. Oh, also, I'm going to upload my video speaking about the king who recently passed away. And so I totally did forget. So let's get into the shits again. Okay, y'all. So let's get to chopping these onions and chopping it up at the same time. Because, see, I done told y'all already that this was about to happen. But no. I'm being a hater. And what that girl said in the video, I need to take this video down because apparently I'm going against the LGBT. Man, fuck them motherfuckers is how I feel. Flat out. Because this is the thing, right? This ain't no new information. The fact of the matter is, nobody with a platform is ready to speak on the fact that the pedophilic community, the pedophiles in the community, have been attempting to infiltrate that community since the motherfucking 70s. Facts. Actually, what I try to mention every single time in my video, Harry Hay, the creator of the LGBT community, was also an activist who was in the group called NAMBLA, okay? And which it stands for the North American Man Boy Love Association, is a pedophilia and pederasty advocacy organization in the United States. It works to abolish age of consent laws, criminalizing adult sexual involvement with minors, and campaigns for the release of men who have been jailed for sexual contact with minors who did not involve in what it considered coercion. So basically, um, um, what is that shit called? I forgot what it's called, but consensual rape, and that's what we'll use. Consensual R word, because I guess I'm not supposed to say that or whatever, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be the first one to tell you, I was a little hot to trot little girl in the whole nine in my teenage years. I'm not gonna front or fake or be fraudulent at all. But you know what you're supposed to do as a grown ass man when you got a child coming at you and being all sexual and doing all that shit? They supposed to turn your ass away and go snitch and tell your motherfucking mama so she could, or your father, so he or she could beat your motherfucking little ass. That's what they supposed to be doing. Okay? And you know, they've been protesting in California for the last 2 weeks. And CNN and all them, they was in front of the CNN building and didn't say a motherfucking word. The Save the Children protests have been going on in front of the news stations. They're going to the Capitol buildings and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So they're not pulling up on no woody poo places. And what are they doing? They're silence of the motherfucking lands when it comes to these kids. So that indicates to me that they are cool with all of that. That's what it shows me. It shows me that them motherfuckers is with the Chester molester shits. And over this past year, which people like myself and people like, I'm going to shout out some folks, High Roots TV, well, that's all I can think of right now. High Roots TV. If you go to Instagram, you could see, dang, what's the name of those fools? Enlightened Prophets, Dark Universe, people who are not afraid to speak on this stuff. And I've been speaking on it for a minute. That's why I had to disassociate myself with the LGBT community, because while this stuff was being exposed, they didn't have nothing to say. And I'm looking at people who got these huge platforms who's talking about how the LGBT community needs all these rights and shit like that, but they ain't got nothing to say when it comes to these motherfucking kids. And I got a problem with that. So that indicates to me, y'all down with the Chester molester shit too. That's what that means to me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, am I tripping or not? I mean, if you ain't saying nothing, then that means you complacent and you with the shits, right? So, I don't know. Like, I need to know what y'all think down below. What the fuck is that about? You know, and then while these motherfuckers is so gung-ho, you know, to represent a movement that was started by a whole pedophile and be quiet is questionable. My thing, I say it all the time. I say it all the motherfucking time. You know, this is the difference, right? Here's the difference. You know, for the people in the LGBT community today, they got to grow up, be kids. You know what I'm saying? For this one, so y'all know, I'm using the Grill Mates Brazilian Steakhouse because I want that kind of flavor, baby. But we got to grow up, or not we, they got to grow up, and I also put that seasoning, a little pinch of it in there so it all match. But they got to grow up, be kids, watch cartoons, you know, go play, and blah, 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 the whole shits, right? But our kids, their cartoons is seeing two dads, you know what I'm saying, and all the shits. They're not getting to grow up as plain regular ass kids. And in some states, they're teaching the kids about LGBT history. First of all, I'm gonna need y'all to get the Black history together first, because we can't even get that right. Okay, so I'm gonna need y'all to get your priorities together. And people was thinking that this wasn't going to happen now, that this was going to be a long time coming. All this shit is happening now. The chips and the whole New World Order and all that shit is happening right motherfucking now. So I'm going to need y'all to get ready. So you ain't got to stay ready. So you ain't got to get motherfucking ready. For real, for real. I mean, for real. I'm not saying the shit that I'm saying to be a fuckhead. I'm saying the shit that I'm saying because I give a fuck. And it seems like nobody gives a fuck about what's going on. While we busy, right? Looking at the Cardi B's of the world and shit like that. And I ain't trying to throw the girl under the table because low key I fucks with her, right? But it's just like that. It feels like a distraction. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have nothing to say. You feel me? But it screams distraction. You know what I'm saying? Like this shit screams this is a distraction. You know what I mean? And I just feel like if protests in the middle of the street and saying nothing, if the fact that they're hiding, the what is that pandemic hashtag? If you type in COVID-19 hoax, that's hidden. All this real information being hidden. Yeah, so like I was saying, what's that got to say about your movement? So listen, I'm all for doing, believe me, okay? I'm definitely one of those who's all for doing whatever the fuck you want to do. Flat out. I really am. Hold on, let me pause my timer so I can get my pasta going. I definitely am one of those. I definitely feel like you should be able to do and screw whoever you want to do, boo. Flat out, just like that. I mean, and I always mention, the work that I put in Pride, how I grew up. I have friends that was, gay before there was any LGBT community. You know what I'm saying? Before it was any of that shit. You know? And it became a joke. They wasn't talking about the shit in New York, how they had to defend themselves from getting beat up by them people. They don't talk about that little 17-year-old little boy, you know what I'm saying, named Matt in that small town in California where they beat him up and hung him from a motherfucking tree. They wasn't talking about that shit. The shit was a joke. And I can't be affiliated with no bullshit. And then when they started talking about how the Chesters were trying to infiltrate, nobody said nothing. I was too through, flat out. And what is it with the community that is so thirsty to come into the schools? Why are you so thirsty for the kids? If your baby come home and say, "Oh yeah, this is what I like," okay, still grow them up regular. At the end of the day, they're still kids. They're still kids. And I don't think any kid, me personally, should be transitioning as no teenager. You barely know or just getting to know how your body works as a regular girl, as a regular little boy. Okay? So to sit up there and you're already confused, you're already emotional, you're already fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Why would you add, as a parent, more confusion to this child's life? Like I don't get it. But we at the end of time, flat out, because all this shit that's going on, it's nothing but coming to a motherfucking end. That's it. It's gonna come to a head and then come to an end, flat out. And I hate to be the gloom and doom, but I'm telling you, them motherfuckers is fucking with the kids. Yeah, these fools are messing with the kids, and we can't have that. We are the adults. It is our job. It is our responsibility. It is our motherfucking duty to be taking care of the kids. Get some more almond milk. I had to go pick up my wine from the delivery service. Okay, ain't no delivery service. It's my roommate. So yeah, I don't know. California, y'all gotta get that together. I told my cousin, I don't think I'm coming back to California, bitch. It's getting a little too motherfucking weird with all the cannibal restaurants and shit and all that weirdo shit going on. I don't think I could fuck with it. I don't think I could fuck with it. Like my auntie said, they just too willing to accept anything, new and weird and shit. And when you got message, when you got motherfuckers okay with passing laws And it said, you saw in the title, the consent. I'll remix it because I can't remember what it said verbatim. But the consent to have a 24-year-old adult have sex with a minor as young as 14, if they're passing that, then and the world gets used to that, right? And we don't say nothing, we don't do nothing, then they're going to eventually abolish all consent laws. And that was the goal of it. And I meant to go into the history of that. Harry Hay protested against that kind of stuff. Harry Hay, his movement was NAMBLA. That was his movement. Harry Hay, his movement specifically targeted little boys. So while they're all ha 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 LGBT, I'm gonna need you to look up who the founder of that movement is. He's a Chester motherfucking molester. You better watch your sons, flat out. So while you all hyping, talking about how you ain't got no rights in the whole nine, um, the fucking LGBT community took the black people's movement and used it against us. That's why, I can't even jig with people who so gung ho about Obama. He didn't do a motherfucking thing for us. But if you are gay, you got your way today, baby. Flat out. And just like when he got elected, it was something inside that was just like something ain't right. Just like when they got the rights to get married, which I don't know why that was an issue in the first place. Because like I said, I feel like you should be able to do what you want to do. But especially those cities that's on the Bible Belt, they're not going to be for that shit. They're not going to support that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like flat out. Like I'm gonna just keep it funky with you. Let me get this pasta out. Everything's done at the same time, which means wheat is almost done. And I don't know. I mean, I do know. I know I ain't fucking with it. I want to move somewhere hella far on some land and not fuck with nobody. And I could be handling my business from my ranch. That's the goal, bitch. That's the goal. I don't want to be a part of nothing. I don't, the shit is getting too nasty. And they're too cool with having kids not be kids. And I don't know what's up with these adults in these legislative positions where they got kids that they go home to. But see, the thing about it, the T is, they're Chesters too. They're Chestering up their kids to be around more Chesters. Just like that guy in fucking the UK hella years ago. I forgot his name, but he was in the UK. This fool had his 6-year-old daughter. She had autism and shit, and he was Chester her off to all the elites out there in the UK. So a lot of people in these high positions be Chestering off their own motherfucking kids and getting away with the shit. Because, they got power, they're white, they're affiliated with motherfuckers who's for that Chestering ass life. Anthony Weiner, when they was interviewing, I watched every hour of that shit with Hillary Clinton. When they was questioning her about them emails, I read all them motherfucking emails. They are Chester motherfucking molesters, period, the end. Obama, Hillary, all the motherfuckers. They are for that fucking yo kid life, for real. For real. They that one boy have released some videos and stuff exposing those weirdos. Them little kids was moving like they've been doing that shit for years. You could tell they were trained. They were trained to cater to um they were trained to cater to their perversion. You could see it if you got to do your own research. There's some things that I will talk about like this because this is national news. It's currently on the news. You could see the bill because I read it during my lunch. I saw it on Instagram that it got passed on the second, and I seen it got passed on the second. So I pulled up the bill on Google and seen that it's true. And as we seen, we saw the people who was for it and the people who was opposing it, and apparently they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. And you got to be afraid of a motherfucker who not afraid like a scary punk, but you got to be concerned about a motherfucker who's cool with having a grown ass man. And I don't give a fuck. If you 24, you're a grown ass man fucking on some kids. Like straight up. If you cool with that, there's something motherfucking wrong with you. Straight up. I don't give a fuck how fast the little girl was. I was a fast little girl. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that shit is cool. And there's something wrong with you if you're cool with that. Straight up. 1 second, y'all. But yeah, so I don't know, but I'm about to wrap this up here though. We gonna throw our pasta in the mix. Okay, I want more than that. Let's stop playing. And then all I did was folded the sausage into the sauce. Bam bam. And then we got our Alfredo cracking. Whoa. Whoa, keep on sorry. The bottom is my habit. Okay, we're gonna add that. Okay, y'all see? Bam. Add some of this. Whoa. Don't do that. Don't do that. But do this. And boom, boom, you on deck. And it took less than that because I had to pause for the cars. In 25 minutes, you on deck. So yeah, we gonna wrap it up here. It's time for me to eat. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. It's hot as fuck. I'm about to do some more research and everything and get on my job, okay? Well, anyway, peace, love, and hair grease and all that jazz. Share if you care, share if you dare, especially if you are what? A motherfucking Care Bear. All right, peace.